from the UK, broadcasting around the world. You're listening to the Mic Drop Club, hosted by Douglas Hammond-Dishe. Message received. You do not need to know what you need. Just engage with the podcast feed. Providing weekly insights into cool stuff we've read, saw, did, or heard about what made us say, wow, eureka, damn, nothing is off limits. If it motivates and inspires you to reach your goals, then it shall be discussed. Featuring guest interviews from high performers and people of influence, and weekly awards for the best mic drop moment. This podcast is guaranteed to leave you pumped up for the week ahead. Don't just live life. Make life boom.
How you guys doing out there? Welcome to another Wednesday. Hopefully your week has been beautiful and productive. Today I am being blessed. I am joined by Dr. Belinda Coker, who is a Chief Medical Officer, GP, and consultant. She works in the virtual healthcare space, and she knows much more than me and lots of people in regards to digital transformation and as well as clinical governance. So I managed to persuade her to join us on this show to have a conversation around digital transformation and how can we remove some of the friction to enable projects to or initiatives to go smoothly along, and obviously for the betterment for patients and people that consume healthcare. So with no further ado, I would like to welcome Dr. Belinda Coker to the Mic Drop Club. How are you doing? You okay?
Yes, I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
No, the pleasure is all mine. How's your day been thus far?
Yeah, it's a good day. It's been productive so far. So yeah, good to have a nice break to speak with you.
Thank you very much. And one of the things I always like to kick off with guests is how they got into the digital transformation space. As a doctor yourself, what was your journey like?
Well, I'd say that my journey has been, so it's an interesting journey. So I work with digital health companies, and I work mainly actually in the area of quality and safety. So I work to ensure that products and services are safe, and that they follow best practice and meet regulatory standards. Mm-hmm. And overall provide a good experience for users, and users includes clinicians. So, all of us that provide a frontline service, as well as patients or consumers, depending on the company. So really that's what I do. And I started off originally I'm a GP by background, and I started off working in clinical commissioning and service transformation and service design through clinical commissioning groups. And then I moved into healthcare provision and became executive medical director of a GP out of hours, actually would say an urgent care service provider. Mm-hmm. And during that time, I was also working at NHS England, really in the medical, really kind of dealing with performance of healthcare professionals, GPs mainly, but also in primary care and GP practices. Wow. So that's what I was doing then. And actually it was really during my time at, as a medical director that we're a small company, and we actually grew into a medium-sized company. So there's a lot of work to really build a new brand and really grow the company through tender and through really growing our service offering. And during that time, as the company grew, needed to take on more people and actually really try and achieve more, and to really focus on strategy and really to build a company, need to be able to have all these systems in place. And so IT became so important, and IT was just every every step of the way, it just became IT, digital health,
Yes.
IT, digital health. And so really that's how I came to start doing this, because I thought, actually, I don't really know much about this particular area, and it's so important. It's so important. So after that, so that was 2016, I started working, doing my consultancy in digital health more specifically. So I worked for companies like Babylon, did some work with the Hurley Group and their e-consult, e-consult hub, their e-hub, sorry, I should say e-hub rather than e-consult. But that was using their e-consult. And then I joined Lantern and I've worked with other companies like Thriver and Live Smart across this and Innovate UK. So that's just how it's kind of panned out over the last few years.
Excellent. And would you say that the whole digital health agenda is accelerating more now than it ever has before?
I'd say from where across, because actually we look at just the UK and would say actually it's been really happening for quite a period of time, the last 10, 15 years. So I wouldn't necessarily say it was accelerating, but maybe the awareness or maybe the adoption is improving. But actually, when you look abroad, and you even just go to Scotland, Australia, other countries, and you see actually that in many aspects, UK are quite far ahead. And so it's accelerating around the world. That's my opinion, or that's what I've seen and from people I've spoken to. So yeah.
Yes, and obviously your journey has been varied, working both within the NHS and for external software companies adding value in the health space. Now, managing that, were you ever doing them both simultaneously, both inside and outside?
Yes. I mean, it's still, yes. Well, I wouldn't say yes, because I've been working as a clinician the whole time. Yeah. And so I worked as a GP for the Hurley Group through their e-hub. Also for Livy, until very recently, Livy as a online GP. And then and out of hours and just general locuming. So I've always been a GP in the NHS. I've still kept my clinical practice going. So I'd say that I've been doing, a bit of both for quite some time. And even the work I did as a medical director, we were an independent, but we were an NHS provider, but we were still an independent company. So it was kind of falling between, kind of being an NHS organisation and actually falling into, I suppose, independent care provision. So
sure. So one of those things in terms of working within the NHS and also seeing the challenges that independent companies have, there's a lot of value, in my opinion, that you maintain your clinical registration. You're actually still close to your patients and you understand those challenges. Do you have any challenges when you are to maintain your registration, doing your hours and all of that, as well as maybe going to a boardroom meeting when you're still having clinical issues revolving around in your head? What was it like for you? What is it like, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so when I was working on the board, because I was a board director, most of my clinical work would be in the evenings or the weekends, actually. So I didn't tend to do clinical practice during the day and then attend board meetings like some doctors do. I think for me personally, I'd find that because I'd find that a bit difficult, or I'd find that a bit challenging, because when you're seeing a patient attending surgery, you'd have your morning surgery, your afternoon surgery, and then have to make a board meeting at lunchtime. I think that may be a bit easier for the GP partners rather than the salaried doctors, and I've never been a GP partner or really wanted to be. So yes, I think I just had to develop systems around or should I say, I'm not sure whether I developed systems. Yeah, I did. I really developed those systems so that I could make the work or make it work for the work.
Exactly. Exactly. Because sometimes when we complete, when I would complete, was going for roles, and they'll look at all the stuff I do. They'll say sometimes you don't have enough time in the day to do all these things. Yeah, it is a prerequisite. Yes. You did talk about quality and safety. That's what you focus a lot on as well at the moment. You know, to be that clinical safety officer, you should. It's almost a prerequisite. You're a clinician. You see?
Yes.
Yeah, but then
absolutely.
Yeah. So
and actually, to really, especially if you're providing a service that uses clinicians, to be able to know what kind of issues that clinicians are facing.
Yeah.
It can be really helpful when you're trying to deal with performance issues related to clinicians, which is what I had to do. But also, yes, and then to get feedback from the patients as well. So yeah, definitely when you're in a company, it is really helpful to be able to provide some clinical sessions. Yeah. But then you kind of have that there is a bit of a I wouldn't say it was necessarily conflict, but actually it is. And I've spoken to other clinicians that have also had a portfolio of management work, and actually you get to the point where actually which one does take priority, or which one are you able to really give proper commitment to, and to be safe. So in a way, what I had to do is just reduce my scope of practice. So rather than being an in-hours GP and seeing kind of a really wide range of chronic illness, I moved into out of hours where it's mostly urgent care, dealing with urgent care issues. And so that's one way of kind of managing that, kind of keeping up to date with the clinical practice. Sure.
You spoke about systems. You put in place systems so you can manage all of these different elements, should I say. So what systems do you have that sit outside of the work? Like, how do you de-stress? How then do you relax? How do you navigate? What sort of systems? Because I know quite a few people follow the Mic Drop Club are in this position or in a similar position. So any useful tips you can share?
Well, that's part of the reason why I decided to work, do this consultancy, run the consultancy, because it gave me the flexibility. So I've always had a portfolio rather than, I say always. It's been a while since I've been in a kind of salaried position where I've had to work kind of 9 to 5 for a full week. When I was a medical director, it was technically a 3-day role, although work didn't really fit into 3 days. So, it had to be flexible. But what I tend to do is have a really flexible calendar. I book my sessions, my clinical sessions, pretty quite late. I say like late, kind of relatively. So I stick with banks or with locum companies where I can book kind of, maybe a week before or a couple of weeks before, rather than booking 6 weeks ahead or 8 weeks ahead, or 3 months ahead, just because so I can keep flexibility within my schedule. Just being flexible has really allowed a lot of that. And in terms of de-stressing, for me, I started practicing yoga probably like in 2015, and that's been so important, for me physically, mentally. And I've had quite a number of health challenges as well, again, which is why flexibility has really worked. So And I have a really supportive husband.
Exactly. So
makes a big deal.
You need support. And I was waiting for that to come out. So what is her support mechanism? Who is there in her corner? You know, that yoga is fantastic. I think that is a common theme I'm getting from a lot of senior healthcare professionals is yoga. Being able to zone out, get your body into positions whereby you're more receptive to that relaxation feeling is I'm getting that. I myself have not done yoga properly yet. My sister invited me to a Bikram yoga session. I did it once about 4 or 5 years ago. Never went again.
Probably not your best one to start with.
Oh yeah, it was full on. It was full on. The heat was off the chart. But I was bending my body into positions that were like in the womb. I'd never known consciously my body could bend in certain places. My problem was afterwards.
Oh yes, the soreness, for sure.
Yeah,
it does, and also with yoga, it does help to be consistent with it. So because the more consistent you are, and the warmer you are as well, almost in a way, the easier it is. But consistency is really important.
Yeah, most definitely. So you're managing the work-life balance as best as you can. You have systems in place to enable you to move forward. Do you have support within practice as well? Are they aware of the challenges that you might be facing? I know you work on your own terms in terms of the you're non-salaried, so you literally can have less constraints as if you're doing a straight 9 to 5.
I mean, there have been where I have had consistent relationships with, with the kind of the lead GPs, etc. Then yes, there's definitely been support. And actually, I've tended to work for, I say practices or groups where actually there is more support, because I personally find that being a GP can be really lonely. And I like to work and socialize, and I like I just like banter. So
cool.
Definitely had a lot of fun on the hub. And when I first became a GP, I've worked for the Holy Group since the beginning, and we would meet up together at lunch, and I think other places I've worked at haven't quite had that same that's kind of same practice. So I just tend to work at places where it's a little bit more sociable.
Excellent. And that's probably keeping with your own character.
Yes, exactly. That's for me personally.
Yeah. I could totally relate to that. As we are moving through this global pandemic, how critical is digital health right now?
Well, right now it has been more important. Is it more important? And I think it has been important, but actually it's been crucial to help over this particular pandemic. And fortunately seeing kind of a real growth in adoption of remote consultations across the board, that be in, let's say, acute and primary care and secondary care. And if I want to say, kind of digital health, I mean, there has been, so I use, virtual health, but actually I've been using kind of phones, the telephone as a form of a mode of consultation for quite a long time, and GPs in particular are very experienced in using, or I say many GPs, and when they start training, actually have kind of 3 or 4 days of training in telephone consultations. So, but they haven't been used in a kind of widespread, purely, I guess, kind of a whole system or model of consultation. So that's been what's really important. Otherwise, people wouldn't have been able to, or felt safe to come or to consult with their doctors. Interestingly, when I was speaking with patients, I was using the Libby service, and even some of the patients who did have really serious symptoms like chest pain were really reluctant to go to accident emergency. And, some of them have been sitting on symptoms for a couple of days. That was really worrying. So whilst digital has enabled doctors to be able to talk to the patients, actually we still need that face-to-face. We still need those essential services. It'd be great if there was some way that we can provide more care at home. And I think they're going to work very well together, isn't it? A combination of digital and your kind of traditional service delivery.
Exactly. And there was this whole notion of telehealth being somehow shunted to the left, because we're looking at this whole digital health innovation type stuff. But yet the common denominator is, I guess, communication. How then do we enable communication between professionals and healthcare consumers? And that instance, not everybody wants to have a video conversation. Not everybody wants to go in to see the GP. People communicate on different levels and through different medium. I think I've seen myself, this whole journey whereby digital health is an umbrella term for covering a lot of potentially transformational pieces of work. But I still think it is more another variant. It's more like a step change, and adding to a portfolio of different ways that we can engage and empower the patient. Yeah.
Digital health is just, it really covers a really wide range of different services, and digital will include other industries like your pharmaceuticals, right through from how you deliver your trials to how you dispense and deliver medication to the consumer. But then also, like I said, in actually also healthcare delivery, and like you said, communication, different aspects of communication, products to really help people, help empower people to be able to look after themselves and to be able to know how to, what to look out for, to understand their bodies even better. Yeah. So maybe body literacy. There's just so much that digital health can encompass. So yeah, it is important. Yeah.
That's an excellent term, and this is the first time I've heard this phrase. And on this show, we like to do mic drops. So, as the name of the show is Mic Drop Club. Mm-hmm. So when you say something that's profound and resonates well, you get one of these, and you're going to get one of these mic drops just now.
Okay, guys, everybody ready?
Atomic mic drop.
You so needed that mic drop.
Like on Capital Radio getting some...
Yeah. You so needed that. Body literacy.
Thanks.
Body literacy. I know we're going off script somewhat, but this is a term that I have not heard in digital transformation around digital health. Our body literacy. Can you just break that down for the audience, please?
So, body literacy is, this is actually what I've been working on in my, side hustle, which is really trying to help empower people to understand how their bodies work, to understand why they become sick and how they can prevent themselves from becoming unwell, how they can look after their health. So we might say it's just education, but it's really actually understanding yourself as an individual, understanding. So, for instance, for women, and understanding your menstrual cycle and understanding what kind of symptoms you might get every month, or what kind of things could trigger certain symptoms, or that might be food, or that might be lack of rest, lack of sleep. So it's just really kind of just understanding your own body as an individual, and then being in a position to be able to speak to your healthcare professional with more knowledge and with more confidence. Brilliant,
because I guess there's one thing in being able to take your medication as prescribed, if medication is part of the treatment plan, but understanding how it affects your physiology and what your physiology is doing before you took the medication and after. This is you entering a world of empowerment that is not frequently discussed too often. And I'm talking from the mental health background. We're so fixated of just adherence. Just take it, you'll be fine. But then we in health got to be courageous enough and to know that we could be turkeys voting for Christmas in some of the transformational programs we're putting in place, because we want the patient to be independent.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't want them to come back.
Yes, unless they need to.
Yeah.
That's it. We want them to be able to help themselves and come to us when needed.
Yes.
And it sounds like that's what the agenda has always been. It's just not much has been done to help that, or in a way that maybe, that I suppose at the end of the day, everything has to work for the individual, and it has to be delivered in a way that is relevant. And unless it's relevant, then I guess that's like good old, what's in it for me? Why would I do this?
Yeah.
Then it's not really going to be so successful. But it is a long kind of long-term, I suppose, way of working, rather than, as you said, just saying, take this, do that, I know best. Because actually that's where patients may not necessarily follow the guidance that's been given, and because they don't necessarily understand why.
Exactly. And you did say something about what's in it for me.
I hear that a lot.
Yeah. I hear it all too often. And in digital transformation, whereby you will get resistance, friction, barriers to entry, all of these types of things, what is it? What's in it for me is one of those things that is the elephant in the room. When you talk, let's just talk about how do you address challenges, and maybe this will come up within the conversation piece. What's in it for me? Wow.
But it's so true, because what's in it for me, maybe what's in it for me as somebody trying to deliver the change is very different to what's in it for me as the manager that has to implement the change, or for me as the patient that has to run the service, as the doctor that has to deliver the service. And so everybody's needs can be quite different, and it can be challenging to meet that what's in it for me, and really have to understand more about those particular people that you're trying to bring change into their lives. I think that's why adoption has been slow in particular areas in healthcare, digital health, adoption and digital health, because actually, many clinicians will think, well, this is actually going to take up my time. It's going to slow me down. What's in it for me? Is it really going to make my life easier? Is it really going to help me care for my patients better than what I'm doing now? And so, really, when you can show that, and there have been companies that have shown that, then they kind of blow up, don't they? They just do really, they achieve really great things. So that's, what's in it for me is so important.
Do you have any technique that you use, or like, say you're up against a lot of resistance? Nurses are notorious of putting their feet down, saying no. What sort of techniques do you have when you're up against that proverbial brick wall, as it were?
I'd say that which is what I apply to, I'd say, patients as well as in those kind of delivery service transformation roles are the same. It's really about listening and trying to understand what their worries are, and then convincing. And actually, the way to convince is actually to demonstrate and to find a way to demonstrate that you can help alleviate that worry in some way, and B, that you'll be able to provide the support. And I think if, in particular, if things are difficult to change or to implement, then knowing that you kind of have that backup or that support makes a big difference. And so for somebody, I might say that, I'm here, this is my email, this is my phone, this is something, or I'll come back, or we can just chat about this. So that's just how I found it to have that kind of success with, as I said, throughout everything that I do.
Sure, because I guess that's the humanistic part of digital transformation. When we strip away some of these abbreviations and hot words, underneath it is a real human challenge, which is the management of change, transformation, and being able to recognize that, acknowledging it, and enabling people to talk through some of their fears, their concerns, the worries, all of those things. And as you said, you be able to then demonstrate how you can support them is excellent.
I love the way you interpret what I'm saying, because you're saying exactly what I want to say. So I like that. Thank you.
No, but you're saying I'm just listening, and you've only got one mic drop, so let's see how you're going to get on. But yeah, that is it for me. That reaffirming that the principles that drive transformation are still human ones.
Yes.
So
yes.
Yeah,
absolutely, and that's why I like that side of change. And I said change and transformation. I'm less into the kind of the deep technical side, and I'm more at the front. Front side.
No, brilliant.
That's where I prefer to be.
So do I. That's the space I'm more comfortable in. If I had to pick any place to really sit in, the technology is always transient. There's always another iteration of something else. But the human, that's the common denominator in everything that we're doing here. It's just a bit of future gazing, because I'm very conscious of your time, Belinda, and I don't really want to take up a lot of your time. I know you're very, very busy, so I do appreciate you taking this time out in the first place. It's about future gazing around where we're going with this digital health technology. We've got AI that's now knocking on the door. Everything needs to have some AI component to it, or so it will seem. What are your views around that, and what sort of safeguards do you think we might need to be considering?
Well, I mean, we're not quite there yet with AI, and obviously over time it will, as a technology develops and becomes more refined, then yes, you'll see that it will be really have a really great impact on how healthcare service is delivered. And if it does work out, then will be, fantastic. I think in terms of safeguards, really the most important aspects would be to make sure that data is that's used is representative, and that it's tested again on a representative population. On a population that's representative of who's going to be using it, and that includes women, and that includes people of people of color. It includes people with varying different diseases. So it just has to be just representative of who's going to be using it. And I guess that's the fear with it is who's creating it, who's developing these these algorithms and etc. Who are they really understanding what is required, what it's like at the front end, what people, again, going back to that human element, what humans really experience and how they think and what the issues are that they face. And I suppose until that's really, and the other area is privacy and protection of data and general ethics of AI. But, I think that more and more awareness is being raised about how, about these particular elements. And I think there are more people that are becoming representing the creation and development of AI technology. So we just hope, I say hope because, as I said, it's not really my area of expertise, but I really just hope that that these kind of issues really are addressed, so that when someone like me comes along, and I am Black and I am female, that actually it will detect my needs and interpret them in a way that works for me. I don't know how that's possible. I really don't know.
It's a good goal for AI to most definitely be representative, and I would certainly second everything that you're saying there, particularly in the climate that we're in. Sometimes you want to shy away, sometimes people want to shy away from some of the most difficult conversations that are plaguing society right now in terms of race, gender, sexuality, all of these things. These are very, very difficult subjects to discuss openly. However, AI does present the opportunity for us to ensure safeguards are put in place in those algorithms that take into considerations people's protected characteristics. That's so important. And my concern has always been, and this is after working with quite a few software companies, a lot of developments done by stereotypically, and you have to correct me if I'm wrong, and I will remain humbled. Younger people we used to like to call them geeks with beards, or geeks without beards. Yeah, that's how we used to call them in dark rooms coding. Not a lot of worldly experience, should I say?
Yeah.
And this is the problems. This is a potential problem if they're not worldly people. You could omit things just based upon you just don't know or never considered something. So being able to have some sort of safeguards to ensure. Then now this is bringing it back to the beginning when you talked about quality and safety aspects. The DCB 0129160 to start enabling people to start thinking of what AI could be doing. When I done my DCB training, we weren't really talking about AI at the time. Not too sure if you have.
The same with mine. Yeah, the same.
Yeah, so I think, so certainly there's a refresh that is coming there. And
But actually, I think that what you were saying about just generally, I think this applies generally, not just in AI, but across all of digital health, is that many of the people that are doing the kind of the technical side, or that are in the technical delivery, that are building the products, aren't representative of the population that they are serving, and it's a real shame. And I think even not just representation, but actually even just having some clinical input. I mean, how many just digital health companies do not, consult with clinicians or with the people that are going to be using their products?
Yeah.
And have them involved in making sure that they are safe and that they are of good quality, and that actually they're, I say authentic, and that they are, really using based on best practice, and they're not just kind of misinterpreting what I just want to use the example of kind of fertility testing, and there's certain hormone tests that are now being kind of promoted as kind of this wonder miracle that you can predict your fertility, your ability to have a child in the future, and it just feels wrong, to be honest. So I just think that they have to be really, really very careful, and use the right people in your, when you're building your products and when you're implementing them.
Yeah, exactly. That whole notion of clinically enabled digital transformation is not fully acknowledged in a lot of software companies. There's been a plethora of...
and validated.
Yeah, exactly. The validation, this is where it goes. Again, back to what you were talking about. You're managing your clinical role as well as the transformational digital roles as well. And you've maintained the registration. I've spoken to quite a few clinicians, or should I say ex-clinicians, that sit and work for software companies. And I always ask them, how relevant are your skills? When's the last time you actually had a conversation with somebody practicing? Some people have been so far removed 5-10 years ago. We know, just in terms of lingo, things change all the time. It's a constant moving target. So you're bang on the money there in terms of getting clinicians involved. And I would say get them involved early, but also give them some sort of authority. My early journeys as an informatician were to test software, but also to feedback. But then if you were not empowered with the ability to act, it was almost like you're just there as a tick box exercise. I've consulted a clinician and they've signed it off.
Yes, that's exactly you're exactly right.
Yeah. So Belinda, thank you for that. In terms of any exciting projects that you're working on now that you're able to share?
I've set up it's a blog, but I'm building in the earliest stages of building a product. But right now it's a blog called yourtrustedsquad.com.
Your Trusted.
And this Your Trusted Squad.
Cool.
Yes, and it has evolved, but really it's, again, I was just talking about body literacy and digital health. It's really trying to empower users and readers to get to, and particularly now it's actually mainly focused on women, to really kind of understand the body, how the bodies work, to be able to really identify when there are issues that they need to seek medical advice on, and areas where they can manage, of course, like self-care, and they can use digital health tools to be able to monitor mental health, monitor physical health. And so yes, it's just really kind of encompassing the use of digital health in making people feel healthy and look after their well-being.
Oh, great
So that's
stuff.
What I'm working on.
Great stuff. Your Trusted Squad. Yeah. Excellent. So what I'll do is, for the listeners out there, I'm going to put all the information on how best you can get hold of Belinda. She's a very busy lady. So, but look out for Your Trusted Squad. Great concept, I must say, and refreshing as well. You know, so I'm super pumped up to take a look at that as it forms and track your progress, and hopefully we can have further dialogue down the line in this digital transformational journey that we're all on. No, thank you, Belinda.
Thank you, and all the best to you as well. Yeah, we'll keep in touch.
Fantastic.
I look forward to seeing how your ventures progress as well.
Super. Okay, guys.
Thank you.
Have a fantastic week, guys.
Thank you for listening. Don't forget to check out micdropclub.com and get the show notes and useful links. Subscribe to the podcast. Don't just live life. Make life boom.